everyone. Welcome back to Yarn Church. I am so cozy this morning with my tea. I am ready to chat with you all about my hobbies and what I've been getting up to the last couple of weeks. So settle in, maybe grab your own cozy drink, your knitting, and let's chat. So I've got my a Kamoon Panda tea this morning. I actually found out this morning, which is maybe a rough start to the day, that I was completely out of coffee in my coffee maker, and I looked at my pantry and I also don't have any more beans, so I definitely need to go out and buy some more coffee today. But I'm happy to be drinking this tea. It is one of my favorite black teas, especially for the morning. So, and then the mug is actually a handmade mug from a local artist, local to my hometown in Kentucky. His name is Ken Swenson. I will link him below. He does not sell these mugs online. This was a Christmas gift for my parents. Thanks, Mom. I know she watches these. My parents went to his studio and bought a few ceramic pieces for me because I'm a big fan of his. I don't think you can see it in these videos, but I do have several of his prints hanging around my apartment, and they bring me a lot of joy. So go check him out. I love his art. And then the sweater I'm wearing today is my Ashland sweater by Julie Hoover, which was actually the first sweater I ever made. I'll maybe talk about this later. I think I talked about this in a previous episode, that my first sweater ever, it's color work. It was worked bottom up, and the sleeves were steeked, and it turned out fine. It's actually my favorite sweater I've ever knit, and I was very happy with it. So this is kind of why I say there is no such thing as a beginning sweater. The beginner sweater is the first sweater you knit, regardless of how difficult or easy it was. All right, so into some finished objects. My first finished object you saw in my last episode. It was the frogged project, where I frogged my Coastal Celebration shawlette for the yarn. And this is how the finished skein turned out after I took it out of the shawl. I wound it onto a knitting knotty, tied it up into a skein, and washed it. And this is frogged yarn. This is the frogged yarn after it's been washed, and say when you open this up, you can see that it's not totally straight, but it's straight enough. It's more like freshly frogged. Well, it's actually less kinky than even freshly frogged yarn, so this is going to do great in whatever project I want to put it in, and most likely it's going to be a pair of oxbow socks. My next finished object is two mini skeins. So they look similar maybe on camera, but one of them is, well, they're definitely different. So this is a mini skein, kind of a sample spin of yarn that I spun from a free fleece that I got from my spinning guild, and I spun it on some spindles, and then I plied it up, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I'll probably spin up the rest of it very similarly to this. I think I spun this short forward or short backward on a Turkish spindle. So I probably won't spin the rest of this on a Turkish spindle, but I do like using spindles for sample spinning. So I will likely do a worsted style yarn out of that fleece, because I like the way this turned out. The other mini skein is just leftover singles from sheep to shawl. When I'm plying yarn for myself, I use all of it, but I would have probably just joined the next single on and kept going. But for sheep to shawl, we actually don't do joins in the skeins. They join them on the shawl. So these are leftover singles that I had, so I just made my own little mini skein and kept it. So this is a mini skein from sheep to shawl. And then the next mini skein is from singles that I've had laying around for a long time, and I rolled them into a center pole ball on a nostepinne. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but I had them just in a center pole ball in a drawer for probably the last 3 or 4 months. maybe actually longer than that. They've been in there since July. Because I took a long draw class in July, and this is fiber from that long draw class. And I spun the singles on a support spindle, and then I applied them on my e-spinner just a couple weeks ago. And this is what the skein looks like. This is I believe, a merino silk blend. Love it. Again, this is a mini skein. I have no idea what I'm going to do with this. That's the story of my spinning journey. A lot of the things I spin, I have no idea what I'm going to do with them. It's maybe a little bit of a problem, and part of the reason I'm involved in sheep to shawl is I spin for the process, not for the product, and I end up with a lot of yarn I have no plans for because I knit for the product and I spin for the process. Bad combo. And then my next finished object, I don't actually know whether to include it as a finished object or a work in progress. So this is the last finished object, and maybe a good segue into the works in progress. But speaking of sheep to shawl, I had homework from sheep to shawl from last week, and I've been spinning just a little bit every night, although last night I just really needed to decompress from a very rough work week, and I ended up just spinning the rest of what I brought home with me. Basically, they sent us home with these 2 balls of Jacob roving, and hey, put each one onto its own bobbin to spin the singles, bring the singles back. Now, I can show you my bobbins. So these are my 2 bobbins of finished Jacob singles. They're very similar to each other, and then which is good. It means I stayed relatively consistent between the 2. I have a pile, and I'll put a picture in here of a pile of fiber underneath my spinning wheel right now. Not just fiber, but fiber and grass, basically, from this Jacob wool. It was not the most pleasant experience to spin it, but by the end of it, I got into it. I got pretty good at it. So the reason I say this is maybe a work in progress is because I went to my spinning guild meeting on Thursday night, and my friend Karen, who's also in the sheep to shawl team, was sitting next to me, and she had her 2 bobbins already finished that she had brought back to kind of give to our team captain so that we can ply them later. And the rule is you can't ply your 2 bobbins together. You have to ply them with someone else's bobbins. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna have 2 bobbins. I'm not finished with mine yet, but I do have 2 bobbins that I'm going to have 2 bobbins. And she was like, oh, she's like, well, maybe you can ply yours with mine. And so I took her bobbins home with me, and I think maybe later today I'll ply our bobbins together, and then I'll have 2 skeins to bring back rather than bringing back bobbins. It also frees up my bobbins, which is also kind of nice. So a little conspiracy in the sheep to shawl team. And I kind of turned back. Our team captain was sitting behind us, and I was like, hey, is it okay if I take her bobbins back and just ply them and bring back the skein? He's like, yeah, fine. So that's exciting. So yeah, so finished some bobbins for sheep to shawl. And then my other work in progress is I guess sample spin. So at Red Alder, I took a carding class, so on hand carding, and we had some wool. I am going to maybe insert the breed. It's one that I've never spun before, or worked with at all before. And we made some roll lags. And with the roll lags that I already made at the class, which I also have some leftover fiber that I still need to card and spin, but essentially, like, I spun all of this on this Turkish spindle, and now I'm plying it on the same Turkish spindle. So I'm plying it from a center pull ball, because the good thing about Turkish spindles is you end up with the center pull ball at the end, so you can just ply the inside with the outside right from the ball off of the spindle. It's pretty nice. So I'm working on plying this up too. I might finish plying this today too. I have a crafting circle to go to later today, and maybe this is one of the things I can bring. But I think my next work in progress is something that I also would like to work on, if not finish, during that crafting circle. So my next I keep saying finished object, but it's a work in progress. My next work in progress is my Anker sweater Fix It February project, and I am almost finished with adding quite a bit of length to this. So let's see if I can find, yeah, more or less. Okay, so I believe that you can kind of, you may be able to see it from back there. You can kind of see where I started. I started kind of down here. This is where I frogged back to, which all I frogged was the ribbing. So I frogged just the ribbing back, back to just where the stockinette was. And the reason you can see it fairly well is maybe because I used some of the frogged yarn to start off. And then the other piece of this is there was a little bit of ribbing still left. And that's actually where the frogged yarn comes from that I used, is from the bars that I had to kind of flip because I had a little bit of ribbing that I thought I had frogged all the way past the ribbing, but I actually hadn't gone all the way through that last or the first round of ribbing. And so I had some purl stitches that I needed to turn around. So rather than just dropping all the stitches again, because I had already picked them all up, I decided that I would just flip the purl stitches around. And so you can kind of see where the ribbing used to be. I do think it's going to fall out once I have reblocked this, because it's just the one row. And you can also see kind of a slight difference in, I don't know if you call it gauge or maybe just the evenness of the stitches, but there's a little bit of difference in the fabric between down here and up here where part of it's been blocked and part of it hasn't been blocked. But yeah, I've added a good 2-3 inches to the length of the sweater, and I tried this on before I started the ribbing, and I've done one row of ribbing. Yeah, I'm not quite through the first round of ribbing yet on the sweater, so I think I'm gonna do 7 to 10 rounds of ribbing on this. I measured my gauge kind of in this section approximately. It's about 7 rows per inch. So I think 10. I'll end up with a little over an inch and a half of ribbing at the bottom, and I thought I'm going to do 2 inches of ribbing at the bottom, but I actually would prefer, I think I would prefer just matching what's on the cuffs. The other thing I want to do, and as I've been manipulating this, I'm noticing kind of where I cast on underneath the arms is a little bit gappy, and I think I'm going to take some of the yarn that's left over and do some duplicate stitch under here and see if I can tighten this up a little bit. That's maybe another piece of the fix. But when I tried this on, even without the ribbing, it's such a better length for me, and it fits me. It fits me pretty well right now. It hasn't always fit me very well, by the way, and it fit me. It was very snug on me when I first made it, but I've lost a pretty good amount of weight since I made this, and so now it does fit me really well. But a kind of a warning on Petiteknit patterns: if you just go off of the size you always knit, you will end up with a garment that is too small. Please do pay attention to the circumference that is listed there. I think the sweater does match the circumference for the size. It's just that I was fairly new to garment knitting. This is my second sweater I ever knit, and this is my second sweater. First sweater, second sweater. First sweater, I was very paranoid and very careful, and I measured my gauge. I did all the right things on this sweater. On this sweater, I played it real free and loose. I didn't knit a gauge swatch. I was on gauge anyway. Luckily, Petiteknit and I are buddies on gauge. I think we're equally tight knitters. But I did meet gauge on this, even though I didn't measure my gauge swatch. I just got lucky. So the size is correct compared to what it was supposed to be for the size I chose. But I chose the wrong size for the sweater because this had maybe 5 or 6 inches of negative ease when for my body measurements at the time I made this. Currently it fits me, and hopefully it keeps fitting me. But now it's actually going to be usable now that I've added some length, and I'll try to do a try on and show it in the next podcast because I think I should be finished by then and it should be in my finished objects next time. And then the other finish it February. I had no finish it February. I had fix it February. So my next fix it February is, can I call it a WIP? It's an intended WIP. I have not started on this yet, so I do still need to frog this. It's March officially today, but it may be March 2nd when you see this, depending on how good I am at editing the video. But it is, it hasn't been started yet, so I will get around to this. My last WIP is my Audrey top, and this is where we're at. It's getting nice and long. I'm just gonna keep going until I'm close to running out of yarn. I don't think this is as long as I would like it. I don't think it's going to end up the length that I would really like it, but I'm just gonna keep going until I run out of yarn and see how long I can make it. So I'm still really enjoying this. This is I'm to the easy part now. I've tried this on a couple of times. I was worried that the drop on the arms opening would be too much, and it's probably more than I would like if it were a sleeveless top that I was wearing without anything over it or under it. But I think for a vest it's going to be fine, maybe ideal for a vest. And if you look at the pictures online, like of the way it looks on Sari and the way it looks on the folks who did the test knits, for the most part the armhole is fine. The reason that my armholes are a little bit long is because I had to go up a ton of needle sizes to get gauge. So the suggested needle size for this project is 2.5, a US 2.5 or a 3mm needle, and I had to go up to a US 5 to get the stitch gauge. And I don't remember what my row gauge was, but I do believe my row gauge was significantly fewer stitches than the row gauge in the pattern, and so my stitches are longer than the pattern. So my the lengthwise for the number of rows and rounds, I guess it was rows in this section, for the number of rows that I went through, it was longer than it should have been because of my row gauge. And this is I guess I have to learn all my lessons the hard way. So now I'll keep that in mind next time my row gauge is off on a pattern like this, where it matters a little bit more about the drop. Normally I don't worry about row gauge, and because it doesn't really matter, if it drops a little bit more and there's going to be a sleeve there, that's fine. But if there's no sleeve there, it matters a lot more, and so I may need to recalculate that sleeve shaping or the armhole shaping for my row gauge in the future if I make another sleeveless top and I don't get close to the row gauge. So I'll keep that in mind. I'm learning lots of things. So I'll take a little sip here. Some things coming up. Next week is the Rose City Yarn Crawl, and I'm probably not going to go to the Rose City Yarn Crawl. This is the first time in 7 years that I have completely skipped out on the Rose City Yarn Crawl, other than COVID years, where they didn't do it or they just did it virtually. This is my first time not going to any shops during Rose City Yarn Crawl. I think for the last couple of years I've gone to all of the shops, and previously I was planning on going to the Rose City Yarn Crawl, but something else has come up. So the other thing that's happening next week, if you're in the Portland area, is the Antique Spinning Wheel Showcase, and you can go to both, but I'm volunteering at the Antique Spinning Wheel Showcase. The Antique Spinning Wheel Showcase is in Aurora Colony. It's not too far away from Portland. It's maybe an extra 45 minutes away. And Aurora Colony Historical Society and the Aurora Colony Hand Spinners Guild, which I'm a member of, do this joint effort to show antique spinning wheels. And on Saturday, I will be spinning with the Sheep to Shawl team, doing a demonstration. And then on Sunday, I plan to volunteer as a relief spinner, which the relief spinners go around to the different people who are showing their spinning wheels and basically give them a break. So we'll sit with their wheel, explain their wheel to people who want to know about it while they go and get a snack, take a break, and enjoy the show. So I'll be going and doing that on Saturday and Sunday. I may go to a shop or two on Friday, but it depends on how work goes. And lately work has been not easy to get off early. So I was trying to get off work early last night because, as you may be able to tell, the natural light in Portland, usually this time of year it's just raining all the time and overcast and gray, but we're actually having a false spring right now. So it's supposed to be 60 degrees Fahrenheit today, and the sun is out full bore. There's not a single cloud in the sky, and it is beautiful out. And I really wanted to leave work early yesterday to enjoy it, but I ended up staying until after 7 and it was dark. So I was like, oh, is this really how I spend my Friday nights? But anyway, I'm here now, very happy to have spent part of my Saturday morning with you all. So I hope you all have a great weekend, a great day, a great week coming up, and I hope you get to do lots of the things you love to do. Have a great one. Bye.